What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Hope you guys are all having a great day today. As always, today it's raining outside. You might be able to hear it, pick it up on the microphone here. Probably not, but it has just like been pouring straight for the past like 3 weeks. I really have been itching to get out and skate, but I honestly haven't had a pair of skates on in basically 3 weeks now. This video is probably a little bit lowbrow for a lot of you guys out there that know what skate setup you guys enjoy skating. You probably aren't gonna get much out of this video, but for those that are just coming back or just getting started in inline skating, I think this video is gonna have a lot of little nuggets in it that are going to be helpful for you. So stay tuned, let's jump into it. All right, so I got pretty much the best of both worlds here for me. I have my aggressive setup over here to my right, and I have my big wheel urban setup over here to my left. We're just gonna go ahead and start with the aggressive setup just because that's kind of where I started it all. I think aggressive skating to me was what got me back into skating, what really inspired me to skate back in the day. So anyway, let's just take a look at it. I did review these skates when they came stock. These are the Roces Tide M12 skates. That being said, there's a lot changed in these skates for my liking. This is a very classic shell. It's been around for, oh man, I think since the late 80s, early 90s when Rollerblade was using it for their lightning skates. And then Roces took it over. I can't remember the date. I will put it on the screen here just so you know, but they've been around for a long time. They just recently came back with the low boots, and all that means is there's a low cuff. So this cuff is cut lower, so there's more maneuverability in the skate, especially when you're doing aggressive maneuvers. So the shell is very clean, very classic look to this shell. It is a raised heel shell. Raised heel boot. So what that means is below this sole plate that's screwed on and attached to the shell, this heel is actually lifted up in the back here, and the forefoot goes lower than the heel. So what this sole plate they've attached to it is keeping that flat. So and allowing it to be UFS, to mount UFS aggressive frames to it. The difference between a raised heel and a non-raised heel boot, some people might feel like you're falling back or falling forward depending on what you're used to. I really like raised heel boots. Raised heel boots are basically what all inline skates were until aggressive inline skating came out and made a scene. And then they kind of started trying to go to more of a flat shell boot. So basically you're gonna have that flat bottom. Makes a lot of sense. The thing I don't like about a raised heel is the fact that you don't have a lot of room for a shock absorber in this shell. So because the heel of the shell is raised already, you don't have a lot of room to put another shock absorber underneath your heel. That's a downside for these. That's probably one of the biggest downsides for this skate that I had to say. The other thing to note about these shells is they are very narrow, as you can see here. This forefoot is very, very narrow. I have a standard, probably closer to the narrow, but more of a standard width foot. I skate these and they are tight, but I skate them because I like a really tight form-fitting skate. I don't like a lot of slop in my skate. The way I skate, I like to skate fast. I like to do big airs. I just like that really, really fine, just the subtlest movement to make my skate do what I want it to do. So that's just the way I like to ride skates. Unfortunately, a lot of skates on the market do tend to be more medium to wide last. So over here it's gonna be very medium, a lot wider than what this is. This is probably the most narrow shell on the market. So if your foot's narrow or you like a really tight skate, if you have a standard size foot, you might look into these. If your foot's wide, look somewhere else. So the cuff, I have to say, this is literally my favorite buckle of any skates on the market. And you saw it right there. I unlatched it with like one hand, just super quick. The cool thing about this though, is all you gotta do is put on this side, push this in, which goes, inside the cuff, which is nice. But you push this in, you click it to whatever setting you want, however tight, And then you don't ever have to readjust that again. And every time you want to get in your boot, you're lacing up your laces, and then you're just slapping this over, getting in the spot, boom, done. I mean, it's so nice. On top of that, this is all metal. It's just really, it's constructed well. I've never had one fail on me. Love this strap on this cuff. It's just really awesome. While we're talking about the cuffs, this boot or shell, the cuffs really aren't super rigid. They're pretty floppy, which kind of brings me to my next point, which is why I'm rocking a very expensive Intuition liner in these. These are the Intuition V2 liners. The Intuition liner is a very expensive premium liner, mainly because it allows you to downsize skates. It's very thin and very dense foam. It's also heat moldable, so it like literally creates a perfect glove fit for your foot inside your skates. The other thing that these liners give you, you can't really tell, I might have to open this up for you, but this back here, kind of butterfly thing up around the cuff area, it comes with 2 of those, and they Velcro on the back. What that does is it gives you a varying degree of extra support. So for this skate, this little butterfly, I don't know what they're called, but the support piece that goes on to the Intuition liners really stiffens these up and makes these, I can take these urban skating. If I slapped on, a UFS frame that say was like this on these skates, I would have no problem taking these urban skating. One more thing to say about the shell and the boot. These cuffs aren't removable. Yes, they are if you take a drill and rivet them out and then pop that out, but you can't take these off, so you're not really replacing these cuffs, but not the end of the world. So as you can see, I got about, in the widest part of my sole area, my positive sole area, I got about 2 fingers down there. Most other modern sole kits on aggressive skates are gonna get at least 2.5, 3 fingers. It's just giving you so much more confidence in locking stuff rather than, just barely missing it and slipping off. I equate this to kind of a more older school traditional sole plate, of course, because they are. But you really need to make sure you're locking stuff and there's no slop. The plus for them is the fact that when you're skating stuff that's not, say, a round rail, but you're skating ledges that are kind of angle iron or just squares, these things will lock much better. You can actually lean over and get on a lock on an angle much better with a narrow sole plate than a wide sole plate. Because what's gonna happen is when you're locking something that's flat and not kind of rounded, and you wanna lock and you wanna roll over that just a little bit always. But if you have a wider sole plate and you're really pushing over, that sole plate might slip out on you more than I can get over on these on a flat surface, and they're not gonna slip out on me. So, just something that's a plus. But that being said, I really wish they came out with a sole kit for these that's just a hair wider, like half a finger, a few millimeters wider than this one, just so I have the option of, if I'm just doing a lot of rails, round rails and stuff, or round coping, it just gives me that little bit of extra confidence in locking my grinds. The next thing down on these is gonna be the frames. Now, I've skated quite a few frames, and I like them all for different purposes and uses, but this frame that I find I always skate on the most because it's just it fits my personality as an aggressive skater in the park. For that fast, big air kind of feel is the Wish frame. And if you guys don't know what the Wish frame is, it's basically a high-low rocker frame, which means, as you can tell, there's 2 smaller wheels and 2 larger wheels, 2 smaller wheels on the inside, 2 larger wheels on the outside. And what that's doing is it's allowing this center area to have a much wider, like look at that, that's like, I'm like spreading my fingers out, 4 fingers there. I mean, it's probably 5 or 6 fingers across without any wheel bite. I mean, that's like almost getting into the territory of like freestyle frames and stuff. Like that's the biggest frame H-block area I've seen, especially with a flat setup. Yeah, And like I said before, the reason I like that is because when, you know, I'm at the park and doing rails and stuff or coping, I like to have all the space I can without getting caught up on these next two wheels. Some of you might say, well, why don't you skate anti-rocker? I don't like anti-rocker skating. I think anti-rocker is totally fine if I'm just grinding a box and I'm not really skating like fast or smooth. I love being able to go from, say, this setup, urban, up to, or over to go skate aggressive the next day and not feel too much different because both of these frames are flat-ish. They're both rockered slightly. So the reason I like riding flat is because you can maintain that speed much easier, as well as you have that maneuverability. You can do those turns and carves without picking up your foot to turn, and you don't feel that train tracks feel that everybody talks about. I just love the freedom. I mean, I just feel like that's what inline skating should feel like, is, you know, 3 or 4 wheels flat on the ground, or at least, you know, a little bit of a positive rocker, because it's more fluid. You feel like there's more flow to it. On top of that, I love these frames because they are very long. The wheelbase is quite long. My foot is a 26.5 centimeters, which I skate. These are actually a 42, I believe, EU 42. I usually skate about EU 41. These I feel are hair shorter than a real 42, but having the large wish frames on here, having that longer wheelbase, again, for that park skating that I do, which is a lot of bowl, a lot of airs, a lot of fast, you know, pumping around, cruising, carving stuff. That's where I want to be. It just adds support, that fore aft. So if I land a little forward, I have this wheel here, it's not set back under my foot. Same thing with the back. This wheel isn't set under my heel, so I'm not going to slip out as easy or forward as easy. It just has that nice platform to land on. The other thing, the size of the wheels. These front wheels are 72 millimeter. These center wheels, I believe, are 60 or 61. That's a big setup. I mean, really the biggest you're gonna find is like a flat 62, I believe, right now, in a flat setup for a frame. Yeah, this is a nice big setup. It's gonna keep that momentum going easier. A fast, big park, big ramp, air setup. And that's what I like. Okay, so the biggest downside to this setup, the frame that I like to roll, the height of the H block right here. So from the bottom of the frame to the bottom of the H block, this height right here is pretty tall, which paired with a very narrow sole plate right here, gets very tough to, when you're getting down, boot down, you really have to rock way over to be sitting on this point right here and this point right here on like Royales and whatnot. That's really the Achilles heel to this setup, having a very narrow boot with a narrow sole kit with a very tall frame. But I take that with all the extra things I'm getting, the speed, the smoothness, the maneuverability, the huge H block, you know, yeah, I'll take it. Like if I can't get boot down, whatever, you know. Everything else about this I extremely love in the park. So I think that's it. That's my setup for aggressive skating. If I go aggressive skating, it's usually in the park. It's usually in a park with big bowls, lots of transition, lots of coping, and that's where I like to do aggressive skating. You know, every now and then I will throw on, say, a smaller, like a different frame to go do like street skating or skate the box or something with these. But you know, if I want to go aggressive skating, I'm gonna head over to my local park and go send some airs and do some grinds and coping. So that's it. That's my skate. I love skating it. Oh, one thing before I go on these, the bearings that are in here are the Reds big ball bearings. Love those bearings. Super smooth, really fast, and they're really durable. And for the price, I don't think there's really a better bearing out there. A lot of aggressive skaters are skating those nowadays. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything about those skates. Now, let's move on over to my urban big wheel world and my favorite setup for that. The big wheel setup of choice. You guys are gonna see a lot of similarities between this setup and this setup, even though they're completely different setups for different purposes. But let's just start out with the boot. This is the 2019, I believe. I think this is, 2019 Rollerblade Twister Edge boot. The previous boot, I think in the 17, they had, Twister Edge 2017, had more kind of holes in it. My wife was on that one. It's a great shell. The reason I like these a lot better is because there are no holes for air, and I think the plastic's a little different. The structure of support, the supportiveness, and the hardness of the shell and the cuff and the boot, really awesome, really supportive. And I think a lot of it has to do with, obviously the plastic, but also they took out those air holes, so it just gives it that response and just the performance that you really want out of a performance skate. A big reason I kept the stock liners, and they're totally fine, supportive for me, is because, and not went with the intuitions like a lot of other people have put in these skates, it's because this cuff is supportive enough and it works totally fine. The other reason is because while these are one of the most narrow skates on the urban skate market, they are a little wider in the forefoot here than these skates are for me. And to get that same feel of the intuitions in these M12s to into this skate, it just with a stock liner, the extra padding just works perfect. And after time, it's not heat moldable, but after time, it does kind of break down in the spots I need it to, and just becomes that perfect glove, kind of like these are, just right when you heat mold them. So that's why I have the stock liners in here and not some fancy intuitions in here as well. They just become a little bit too sloppy for me when I put intuitions in these shells. So that being said, let's just kind of start with the cuff. The cuff again is a low V cut, which you see a lot of times. The buckle on the cuff, there's something I like about it, which is this button. So if I don't push this button right here to unlatch it, you can't actually pull this cuff latch part off. You have to push it to undo it, which is really nice. I love seeing that button on these. The downside that I don't like, and I've talked to Rollerblade about this, is the plastic. They got metal here, and this is an aggressive skate and they got metal there. They were saying it's, they're saying this is an urban skate, which you're gonna go down and be sliding a lot and going down on them and sliding on them. So having a metal buckle is going to just get ripped and torn and messed up, so it won't work more than a plastic one will. I understand that logic, but this is an aggressive skate and they've had this buckle on it for years. I have 3 other versions of this skate that are a lot more banged up than this, but the buckle mechanism works absolutely flawless like the day I got it. This, I went down like a couple times on, and I had to it was all twisted and pushed up because of its plastic. And I had to literally re-bend it and kind of mold it back into place, and it kind of worked. I mean, it works, but it's not nearly like new. But that being said, the actual strap parts on here are nice and thick. That's what Rollerblade does really well. I love how thick these straps they use compared to a lot of other inline skates are a lot thinner and kind of cheaper. So yeah, next down, also on the cuff, these are removable right here. As you can see an Allen key right there. You can take these off, put other colors on if you want, or just replace them if for some reason they break. That's just a nice feature to have. So the next thing down is something that you see on a lot of urban skates, and that is the 45-degree strap. The 45-degree strap is here to literally suck your heel back into this heel cavity, this heel pocket back here, so that your heel doesn't lift and your foot doesn't slide forward and back and doesn't move around in your foot. It does a really good job. So good, in fact, that I don't even have to use the laces or tighten these laces up because this just locks my foot into place, and then this as well. These 2 buckles or straps do the job just fine. If you get the right shell, it's already almost your foot shape, and then you have the right liner in there, they're already tight enough that you're not gonna really be, with laces, not gonna be squeezing these that much tighter. you would need really another like a ski boot, like a ratchet system on the front in order to really close and squish this hard shell boot together. So laces for me literally are just for show. It is nice that they do have the raised eyelets on here, because it does give you a little bit more leverage if you need to try to close this up a little bit, but you're not going to get much out of it because this is a very stiff supportive boot. The plastic is very stiff, and I just don't think you're going to get much out of it. All right, next thing on the boot is the slide plate. You know, this is just there. It's very common for urban skates, so if you slide out, you're sliding on that, not tearing up the side of the boot. And these are replaceable. Oh yeah, one thing about the boot, as you can tell, similar to this boot, but you can't tell because this sole plate's on it. Here's that raised heel. As you can see, the heel is raised up compared to the forefoot. Same thing's happening here, except for this is kind of making up the space, you know, between your heel and the frame. The downside, I guess, is the fact that, again, you can't really put a big shock absorber in here. There's just a very thin little shock absorber in here. So when you're landing those big jumps and stuff, just, you know, you're not gonna have as much padding or shock absorption. The next thing on the boot is down here, they did keep or add some vents on the bottom. There's a square hole underneath the arch of your foot, and there's two little holes underneath your toes. Those are supposed to be air vents. I don't use them. I've never felt any difference with them open. So the only thing that they do is they just let a bunch of dust and dirt underneath their boot to get all of your liners and inside your shells. So I literally take duct tape and I tape those off so that they can't get a lot of dirt up in there. All right, so the next thing down, which really kind of makes this whole setup for me, is my frame setup here. This frame, like a bunch on the market right now, is a rockered frame. The rockered frames really started out with a company called Wizard. They actually created a whole new style of skating called wizard skating. And that's basically just a rockered frame, flatland skating, which basically gives you that crazy maneuverability and pivot points because it's a rockered frame to do more crazy maneuvers, just have that like more freedom, and also be able to ride longer wheelbases and bigger frames without losing that maneuverability and playfulness in a skate, which I absolutely love. Like once these things came out and I put them on my feet, I started skating more urban wizard skating than I did aggressive skating. This version of the my wizard frame, I guess, is the NN Skates frame. This is their Ronin, as you can see by that little guy on the frame right there. The Ronin is their 100 millimeter by 4. So the 4x100 setup, it is rockered. So if I just roll it kind of center weighted, it's only gonna roll the 2 center wheels. If I push on the heel, it's just gonna be the 2 back wheels and the front. It's gonna be 2 front wheels touching. It's very subtle. I think it's a 2 millimeter rocker, so it's really, really subtle, but it really, for seeing how long this frame length is, which I love, because the fore aft just leverage you can get when you're wizard skating or landing stuff or whatever I love a long frame. It just feels more like skiing to me a little bit, I like about it. But you're not losing that maneuverability. It feels like a 4x80 or better in terms of maneuverability. I do have a 5x100 or 5x80, which is a Dragon, which is a longer wheelbase and has more of a pronounced rocker in it for wizard skating, and it's lower. But I usually, for just all around, if I'm going out, just stair bashing, wall riding, sending gaps, doing a little wizard stuff here and there, just, urban skating in general, I go towards this because I just feel like that 4x100 setup is just a great mix of just being able to go, cruise far and fast, keep up that speed, but still have that awesome frame length to land jumps. By not having that shock absorber, having a bigger wheel with more urethane is giving you a shock absorber better than these smaller wheels. So that's cool too. In my opinion, is the best of all worlds. It's kind of like the one frame quiver. It's not the best in any, like I said, like if I'm gonna go just wizard skating, I'm gonna go take that 5-wheel setup with a more pronounced rocker to it and longer frame. But to me, this is kind of where it's at. You know, if you're going long distance, but you still want to hit stuff and just have a good time, go fast, love this setup. The wheels I have on it are the Revolver wheels. It's the wheel company created by Loco Skate Shop. Really a great premium wheel for a really good price. Really have nothing bad to say about them. I do have the Ronin wheels that I will be putting on these in the future, but these wheels are great. And then the bearings I have inside these wheels are some of my favorite bearings. I roll them on all my skates, other than my aggressive setup, and that is the Rollerblade Twin Cam ILQ9 Pro bearings. They're just so fast, so smooth. They really hang around for a long time. You know, they're pretty durable, but if they do get gunked up and dirty, the shields are easy enough to take off to clean, much easier than popping off those C-rings and whatnot on the non-pro versions. So yeah, and at 50 bucks for a set, it's kind of a no-brainer for me. So yeah, that's my urban big wheel wizard. This is just my skate. This is my skate to go skating. That being said, if you have a shorter foot, then I have like I said before, a 26.5 or a 41 in these. This is a 8.5 shell in the twisters. So if you have a shorter foot than that, you may want to look into the Ninjas or a smaller 4x90 setup instead of 4x100. Or if you have a bigger, if you have a bigger foot than mine, you might even look into the Sumos or a 4x110 setup to kind of get the same feeling as what I'm getting on here. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this not so quick just look at my favorite go-to setups, whether I'm going aggressive skating or urban skating. This is more often than not the skates that I go to just get out there and go have some fun. Like I said before, if you have any questions about either of these setups, I would be more than happy to answer them. So make sure you drop those questions in the comments below. And yeah, I think that's it for today, guys. If you guys like this video, you got something out of it, please like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you ring that bell so you don't miss any of these uploads. And until next time, guys, just keep rolling.